Hey, this is Ben, and in this video I'm going to be sharing with you the #1 most powerful meditation technique I've ever experienced and how you can start using this. Now, this is going to be going off a very recent experience I had, in fact just this week, where one session applying this technique was equivalent to about a month's worth of meditation doing it my normal way, okay? So it doesn't matter what level you're at in your meditation practice. If you're ready to take it to the next level and you want to get there quickly, this is the technique for you. Now, the name of the technique, which comes from the teachings of a guy called Shunzen Jung, okay, is known as the strong determination sit technique. The strong determination sit. And in fact, this has been adapted from a technique that's been practiced throughout Buddhism and Hinduism for thousands of years. So it's a very old technique, but it's only recently become more used in a Western context. So essentially, the whole idea with this strong determination sit is very similar to ordinary meditation, except for a couple of key elements. Firstly, you're sitting, eyes open, looking straight ahead. Okay, so your eyes are open. Secondly, this is the kicker, you do not move. You do not move at all, okay? There's no readjusting of the back, no moving your legs, no twitching, no coughing, no scratching your butt, no anything. You're literally just sitting there. And you might say, oh, well, that's just sounds like regular meditation, right? It just sounds normal. Try to sit completely motionless for just 5 minutes. I challenge you to try completely motionless for 5 minutes. No movement at all, all right? And you'll see very quickly this is a very difficult thing to do. Now, it's kind of interesting, and I'm taking a lot of this material from Leo Gura's channel, actualize.org. I'm just condensing this for you. But he talks at great length about this technique. You should definitely go check that out if you want to go really in depth with this. But he shares about how in the West, where our spiritual traditions are a lot more disconnected from the body, right? Our spiritual traditions have generally become more organizational, hierarchical, commercial, whereas in a lot of Eastern-based cultures, these spiritual traditions are very deep rooted in lots and lots of tradition that has continually gone on without breaks in tradition and much change at all. It's just built upon itself. So you've got a lot of richness and a lot of deep wisdom in these traditions. He talks about how in the West, our culture here has become very soft, okay? We don't respect the power of the mind. We don't have anywhere close to an inkling of what the mind is capable of, like some of these traditions from Eastern cultures are in touch with, okay? Where they take meditation very seriously, they take inner contemplation very seriously, and in general, they're a lot more connected to their spirituality. So why does that matter? Well, when we're talking about strong determination sitting, this is going to be the quickest way that you can get back in touch with the power of your mind, all right? And in previous videos, I've talked about the benefits of meditation. One of them is that it's like learning to use this insanely powerful thing, which is your mind, okay? Learning how to clear all the mud off this lens. It's like you've got a $20,000 camera or a $50,000 camera, and you're walking around with mud on the lens all the time. It's all clogged up, it's all murked up from all the video games you play, from all the technology that you're constantly fixated with, from all of those lazy habits that you haven't cleaned up, from the lack of meditation that you've done. It's just a natural part of our culture, but it's made us very soft, okay? And we're wandering around whinging about all our first world problems, whereas some of these Eastern traditions, I'm about to share a couple of stories with you now, you'll see just how much they've tapped into the power of their mind. So Shunzen Jung, back to Shunzen Jung, who shares this technique very extensively, he talks about the marathon monks, okay? Back to Eastern tradition, there's these monks who follow this tradition who are affectionately known as the marathon monks. And the reason for that is this. These monks willingly separate themselves from society for a period of 12 years. 12 years straight, okay? For 12 years, they go and live on this mountain called Mount Hiei, which is now near Kyoto in Japan. They live on this freezing ass mountain for 12 years in isolation. And that's just the beginning. What they do while they live there is just insane. So these monks will spend 100 days out of the year, 100 days straight, walking from the top of this mountain down to a temple in these wooden clogs, in these wooden shoes, sorry, sandals, not clogs. And they will walk an average of 60 kilometers per day from this mountain to this temple to give offerings and back. 60 kilometers a day for 100 days straight. Now, not even the most insanely trained athlete is going to be able to do that for 100 days straight. It's like doing a marathon every day for 100 days. All right, absolutely nuts. And while they're doing this, they're not drinking water, they're not stopping for a break, they're not stopping for some lunch. They're walking continuously to this temple, giving their offerings, making their offerings to the gods and honoring the ancestors. And then they're returning in one day, okay? So this goes to show you the level of power they've tapped into within their own minds, the level of resilience and these extraordinary abilities that the average person could not come close to. Okay, so that's just an example of some of the crazy things. I'm sure you've heard of other stories of monks doing just extraordinary things with their bodies, with their minds. Another example is these very same monks, during this 12-year period, each year they will also do a 7-day sit. And that's where we're going to get into this technique in just a second. They will sit for 7 days straight in meditation, no food, no sleep. How long are we meant to be able to live without sleep for? Maybe a few days, maybe a week, maybe, a little bit longer than that. But they're going with no food, no sleep, and what's more, no water. And we're expected to be able to live for about 3 days with no water. They're going 7 days, no food, sleep, or water. Either side of them sit 2 other monks when they're doing their 7-day practice. 2 other monks who are watching over them to make sure they don't fall asleep, to make sure they don't lose concentration, and they're just supervising them for the 7-day period. So they're pushing the limit of what we believe is medically possible in the West. They're doing this all the time. It's just one of these ancient orders which is continuing up to this day. And this is done in public. You can go and watch this. All right, so this isn't some ookie kooky fairy tale story. This is real. These people are actually doing this. So to bring it back to the technique I wanted to share with you, how do they do that? How is it that they've achieved this? Well, they've tapped into the power of their mind. And so this technique right now is something quite new to me. I only just tried this. But I'll quickly tell you what happened for me, and then I'll just give you a few more pointers of how you can practice this, and then we'll wrap it up. So after I heard about this technique, I was very excited because I'm at a stage in life where I'm becoming a lot more passionate about my meditation practice. I want to take it to the next level. I'm going to go and do a Vipassana retreat later this year. So the other day I went, sat in the park, eyes closed, eyes open. Part of this technique is keep your eyes open. It's pretty windy, so I had some sunglasses on, but cross-legged, I spent a couple of minutes getting myself comfortable, and then I just sat. I hit the timer for 90 minutes because that's meant to be quite an extraordinary length of time, completely motionless. So I was like, I'm gonna push myself. I've been meditating for about a year. I'm gonna push myself here. Set it for 90 minutes. And the first 5 minutes, I felt like a sense of panic. I actually felt a little bit anxious. And I've had similar experiences when I've been pushing my mind to the limit, when I know, it's like my mind knows something challenging is about to come, and I was getting that. I got a little bit of a flood of anxiousness through my body in the first 5 minutes. I knew it was gonna be difficult. And After about 10 minutes, I started to feel very uncomfortable. I realized I hadn't actually put myself in the optimum posture. My back was a little bit bent, my legs weren't perfectly crossed, my hands were kind of awkwardly positioned. And I realized like I really would just want to adjust myself. But I remembered, no, the whole purpose of a strong determination sit is you ride the whole thing. Okay, and I'll share on some of the reasons why, what this brings up in a moment. But as I continued this, I noticed something very interesting. First thing was, after what felt like about 15-20 minutes, my sense of time just gradually disappeared completely. I was looking straight ahead, just like I am now, eye level, straight ahead, just looking, staring at this one point across the river. And I noticed that I started to lose track of time because there was no events to measure time against. There was nothing happening. And this is pretty normal in meditation, but when you've got your eyes closed and it's a more internal experience, you've often got a lot of thought going on. I think one of the benefits of having the eyes open is it kind of dissolves this barrier between internal and external, and it can actually be a source of removing the distractions of your thoughts. That's what it was like for me. So I started noticing time vanished. Then what I started noticing was a lot of pain and numbness in my legs. Okay, my legs started tingling. I started feeling a lot of pain in them. Started feeling a lot of pain in my back. Ants started to bite my feet. There's these little black ants crawling on my feet and they started biting me. And I'm thinking, all right, I gotta stop right now. This is starting to get a little bit too much. And I was like, okay, no, I'm going to ride this out. The whole purpose of this technique is to ride it out. Now the reason for that is this, and this brings it back to the whole purpose of this technique. As you sit there with strong determination, with your body completely motionless and still, what this does is it brings to your awareness this whole idea of pain. Not just normal pain, intense pain. Your body starts screaming at you. And for the average Westerner who doesn't meditate, who lives a very unconscious, busy lifestyle, if they try and do this for 5 minutes, if you've never meditated before, you try and sit completely still, you will want to claw your eyes out very quickly. You'll want to jump up, run around, and start screaming, okay? Because this puts enormous pressure on your mind. Enormous pressure. And so all of this was coming up. The pain, the desire to move, the desire to get up, the desire to change my position, the complete lack of awareness of how much time had passed. All of this stuff was just like bombarding me. If you've ever done Vipassana or you've done long sits of meditation before, you know what I'm talking about here. It is the most difficult thing you can go through, okay? So all of this is smashing me, bombarding me, and it felt like it must have gone for about 30, 40 minutes. I was just enduring it, breathing deeply into the pain, into the resistance, and just kind of observing it. And I've trained myself, and you learn this through mindfulness, you train yourself to observe the pain, observe those critical thoughts, observe, those things that disturb you about life, observe them non-judgmentally, and that's what I was doing. I was kind of feeling the pain from a non-judgmental place and just experiencing the raw sensation. And then so it reached this point where I started to ask myself some really interesting questions. My mind started to turn inward and I started asking myself some questions. And one of the questions was, what is pain? Like, what actually is pain? I know it's uncomfortable. I know I don't like it, but why don't I like it? Like, what actually is it? It's just like this sensation. Feels kind of tense, feels kind of hot, feels kind of tingly, feels kind of prickly. But as you sit with those feelings individually, you start to notice that you don't actually have to interpret it in a negative way. Okay, it's your body telling you it wants to protect you. So pain exists for a great function, for a great purpose. But you don't have to be controlled by it. And that's what started coming up for me. I was like, oh, this isn't actually bad. Like, what I'm experiencing right now isn't actually bad. It's just an experience. I don't need to put a label on it. I don't need to suffer from it. And this is where I got hit with one of those foundational truths that you'll get hit with as you continue through meditation. And that's this. Suffering, all that suffering is, all of the anxiety, the fear, the pain that is affecting you in a negative way right now in your life is simply this. It's pain times resistance. Pain times resistance equals suffering. It's something that has been known for thousands of years in Buddhist traditions, Hindu traditions, Eastern traditions. Pain times resistance, pushing back against the pain, equals suffering. I want you to really get this now because this is massive. Pain times acceptance equals bliss. And that is exactly what I experienced. When you accept pain, you don't fight against it, you simply observe it and sit with it. You reach this critical point where your ego lets go, stops fighting, and surrenders completely. And suddenly the pain, it's like it flips and you experience it as pleasure. Now that sounds pretty far out, like that sounds like some sadomasochistic sort of stuff right there. This is actually true. This is the beauty and the power of this technique in particular. It can get you there very quickly to a place where your ego sticks the flag up and surrenders. That's why I'm really excited to share this technique with you. So that's what I noticed. About what felt like must have been halfway through, my ego gave up and started interpreting this pain as, I won't say it was pure bliss, like, oh, this is just pure pleasure right now. But it was just sensation. It wasn't pain anymore. It was something different entirely. And there were certain waves of positive feelings that would come and go, where it was like, oh, that tingling in my leg, or that prickling in my leg, or that ant biting me, that actually oddly feels kind of good right now. Just for a moment. It wasn't a permanent thing, but it lasted for a little while. So that was one of the things that happened. Another major thing that happened, and this is something really personal now, but this just hopefully is going to inspire you to try this. Another major thing that happened was I started to reflect on my own life. And for the first time in my whole life, I realized that I don't have regret. Okay? Which is mind-blowing for me. I've always thought that my past could be better. I've always thought, I wish I could go back and change a whole bunch of stuff. I wish I did more. I wish I did this differently. I wish. For the first time in my whole life, I completely accepted my past and I had no regret. And I found myself saying, if I was to die right now, I would be completely happy with that, which is crazy. For me, that's crazy. But that's how I felt. It was this sudden realization, I'm actually so happy with my life. So I forgave myself, I let go, I surrendered my past, which is all part of it. See, physical pain is interlinked with mental and emotional pain. It's all kind of one thing, coming from different angles, but it's all kind of one thing. And as you start to accept the physical pain and you don't resist it, it's going to bring up emotional pain. And as you accept that, it's going to bring up mental pain. All of this stuff's going to come up. And that's why this technique is so powerful. Meditation in general, but this is a very focused form, is it's going to bring up and purge your subconscious of all the stuff it's been holding on to, all the stuff that it can't let go of or hasn't been able to let go of up until this point. It will start to spew this stuff up as you put it in a position where it has to surrender, where it has no more strength to fight back. So that's what came up for me, and I found myself feeling incredibly blissful, and I actually pushed on for a full 2 hours completely motionless. The timer went off and I was like, let's see how far I can go with this. Not because I wanted to just be macho and like, I partially wanted to prove to myself that I could do it, but not because there was really a lot of an element there of how much can I discover right now? Like, how far can I go with this? How much can I tap into what's going on inside of me? And it started to bring up a lot of other stuff, which I won't cover here. But that was one of the biggest takeaways for me, the first time in my life. So afterwards, just a quick word on what happened after. If you have ever experimented with different psychedelics or different substances that induce intense states of euphoria, that's how I felt afterwards, all right? It felt like I'd slept for 6 hours for a very deep, deep sleep. Of course, as I stopped, I've noticed again my legs were in intense pain, but that kind of just vanished. I got up, I moved around, I shook myself out. It was gone within a minute. Like, it did not last at all. I found when I was meditating, my mind started saying, you know, your back's in a bad position, you're gonna damage it, all these stories, you're gonna have permanent damage. Like, my ego was just barking at me. But I endured it, and afterwards I was fine. So I got up, I was in this euphoric state, I felt like I'd had the best sleep. My mind was so clear, like clearer than it's ever been, and so sharp, and I just felt so aware of myself and everything around me. It felt incredibly peaceful. Okay, so this was a 2-hour session, but those 2 hours were more productive for me than a month's worth of meditation. It was incredible, and for the rest of the night, I just felt incredible. This morning, this was yesterday, this morning I was doing my normal meditation, and it just felt like it was 50% better. I'm not exaggerating that. Like, I felt 50% more present during my normal meditation. Okay. So those are some of the benefits of strong, determined meditation that I wanted to share with you. It's going to bring up a lot of crap. It's going to help you to let go of a lot. Just a couple of disclaimers here and cautions. Of course, if your body is in a state where you've got some kind of nerve condition, you've got some kind of joint condition, or there's some kind of issues there. You know if this is going to be okay for you. Don't put yourself in a position where you're going to physically damage yourself. If you need to sit in a chair, do that. If you need to adjust yourself with some cushions, do that. But actually challenge yourself. Once you're in a safe environment, in a comfortable position, challenge yourself to do this for just 30 minutes, okay? 30 minutes. If you can get past 30 minutes, challenge yourself to do 1 hour. Some of the most advanced meditators can do this for 4 hours, okay? And some of these people are actually what you would call enlightened. They can do this for 4 hours straight. Some can do it for 8 hours straight, completely motionless. And they're not having a hard time. They're not having a bad time. They're in a state of bliss because they've pushed past that point of ego, and all of the sensation that's coming in is being interpreted by their mind as pure pleasure, which is absolutely incredible. You think more money is going to get you more pleasure? Getting a promotion is going to get you more pleasure? Having more sex is going to make you happier? Try doing this. If you want a shortcut, it's going to cost you a bit of pain. It's going to take some work. This is going to shortcut you to that intense state of bliss and pleasure. And in fact, your normal baseline of ordinary, mundane life is going to rise so that your happiness generally is just 50% higher or more than it usually is as your average, okay? So that, in a nutshell, is strong, determined meditation. Seriously encourage you to try that. If you want to go nuts with it, here is what's been recommended by Leo Gura, who made the video that inspired me to make this and to try this technique. Try doing 4 sessions per day for 2 days, 4 1-hour sessions. What you're going to find is it's going to be extraordinarily difficult, but if you do that, it'll be like you've just gone to a meditation retreat. It's like you've just gone to a week-long meditation retreat. That's how much benefit you'll get from doing this technique. Complete motionlessness, eyes open, and as far as your mind goes, you can do the do nothing technique, which is where you just allow your mind to run without trying to steer it, without trying to direct it. Let it go, and a lot of stuff's going to come up for you. There's a lot of stuff that came up for me yesterday, which I'm not even going to share now because it'd take me too long to go into the detail. But let me just say, it's one of the peak experiences of my life, something as simple as sitting still for 2 hours. So that's strong determination sitting, or strong determination meditation. I hope you enjoyed that video. Please share this with someone who would benefit from it. Give me a like, share any comments or questions. Hit subscribe if you haven't subscribed already, if you want to see more of these kinds of videos. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in a future video.